Carrie Morgan was Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice.
Cassie for 17 years, but things went sour after she alleged that Diddy beat her with a wooden coat hanger and she signed an NDA.
Did one moment in court make Diddy completely lose control? You won't believe what triggered his outburst. It all happened when Cassie's best friend, Carrie Morgan, took the stand.
Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan, she described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice. The first time in a home Combs was renting in the Hollywood Hills. Morgan testified that, quote, "I saw him push her. I'm pretty sure he hit her." The second time allegedly happened in Jamaica. Morgan says they were in the bar area of a home when, quote, "I heard her screaming." She recalled guttural, terrifying screams. Combs faces the possibility of life in prison if convicted. He's pleaded not guilty and has denied all wrongdoing.
The courtroom hummed with quiet chatter and the rustle of papers as another day of testimony was set to begin. The mood wasn't tense yet, but there was a heaviness in the air, like everyone was waiting for something to shift. Diddy sat at the defense table, calm and composed, leaning back in his chair with his legal team flanking him, flipping through notes like they had everything under control. Behind them, members of the press murmured softly, cameras poised to catch even the smallest flicker of drama. And then, the room changed. To everyone's surprise, Carrie Morgan walked in. Cassie's best friend, Carrie, wasn't a name that had dominated headlines, at least not yet. Her involvement had been hinted at, sure, but no one expected her to play a central role in the proceedings. But the moment she stepped into the courtroom, the air turned electric. Calm but resolute, Carrie made her way to the witness stand with a quiet confidence that sent a ripple through the room. The prosecution greeted her like a long-anticipated ally. Across the aisle, Diddy's legal team stiffened, exchanging wary glances. Diddy, who had seemed so at ease just moments before, shifted in his seat. His eyes followed Carrie, his body language subtly changing, shoulders tense, hands now clenched, the mask of control beginning to slip. At first, the cracks weren't obvious. Diddy is known for his poker face in high-pressure moments, but those watching closely noticed the signs. The narrowing of his eyes, the tight line of his jaw, the way he leaned forward as if bracing for impact. Then Carrie began to speak. What started as standard testimony quickly escalated into something far more explosive. She shared intimate, deeply personal accounts, details no one outside Cassie's inner circle could have known. And when she hit a certain point, just the right name, the right story, the right moment, it was like lighting a match in a room full of gas. Diddy snapped. With a loud slam of his hand against the table, he broke the courtroom silence. His voice rang out in frustration, interrupting the testimony mid-sentence. The media in the gallery sat stunned, some scribbling frantically, others too shocked to move. Security guards visibly braced for intervention. The judge called for order again and again, but the damage was already done. What followed wasn't just a momentary outburst, it was a breakdown. Diddy pointed toward Carrie, muttering angrily to his team, shaking his head in disbelief. The composed mogul image he'd carefully cultivated was unraveling in real time, and everyone in the room felt it. You could hear a pin drop 1 second, one observer later told reporters, and the next, it felt like the entire room was holding its breath. Even Diddy's own lawyers looked rattled, scrambling to calm him as murmurs spread through the courtroom like wildfire. When the judge finally called a recess, the media stormed out, desperate to uncover exactly what had been said. Cameras outside captured the frenzied aftermath as speculation ran rampant. But one question hung in the air, heavier than anything else. What did Carrie Morgan say that made Diddy snap? To understand that moment, you need to understand who Carrie is, and why her words carry the kind of weight that could shake one of hip-hop's most powerful men to his core.
Morgan was on the stand. That was Cassie Ventura's former best friend. What did Carrie say happened after that incident?
Cassie Ventura left the Intercontinental Hotel, went back to her apartment, her home, and there was Carrie Morgan waiting. She said immediately she saw the black eye that Ventura had testified Combs gave her after the freak-off got violent, and the whole reason why then the subsequent assault in the hallway happened. And then Carrie Morgan said about a half hour later, Sean Combs starts banging on the door with a hammer. It was not let in, but she said she heard him yelling, finally called some of Combs' staff members to try to get him to leave. Police were called, but Cassie Ventura said, and Carrie Morgan backed this up, that nothing ever came of it because Cassie Ventura refused to say anything about Sean Combs and what happened to her.
Aaron, I have to ask you, because Combs was sitting just feet away from Don Richard and Carrie Morgan in court today, how did he react to seeing them and hearing all of this?
He's been an attentive listener. In some cases, he would shake his head or nod along or consult with his lawyers, scribbling a lot of notes. This was an important part of the testimony because it made a turn, Eva. The jury had heard from Cassie Ventura directly about, in rather explicit terms, a lot of the sex acts, but the prosecution's whole case is that she was coerced into that sex because of the violence, the kind of violence that both Don Richard and Carrie Morgan said they witnessed. Now, the defense says there are other reasons for the violence. Jealousy, drugs, didn't have anything to do with coercing her into sex. But the prosecutors want the jury to hear these accounts to say that Cassie Ventura was not only telling the truth about being beat up, but that she had reason to then go along with Sean Combs' sexual demands.
Carrie Morgan may not be a celebrity, but in this courtroom drama, she's become one of the most pivotal figures. As Cassie's best friend, she didn't just show up to offer emotional support. She walked into that courtroom as a key witness with testimony powerful enough to shake the foundation of Diddy's entire defense. And the question on everyone's mind is simple. What does Carrie Morgan know that others don't? To answer that, we have to rewind. Carrie and Cassie's friendship spans years, before the fame, before the lawsuits, before the cameras. Friends close to them describe their bond as unbreakable, built on deep trust, shared history, and countless moments away from the public. Carrie wasn't a casual observer. She was there, behind the scenes, through the highs and lows. And that's what makes her so dangerous to Diddy's case. If anyone saw what really happened behind closed doors, it was her. But Carrie's credibility isn't just about proximity. She's been described as calm, careful, and not the type to chase attention or stir drama. Sources say she's the kind of person who doesn't speak unless she's absolutely certain of what she's saying. And that's exactly why her testimony landed like a bombshell. Carrie didn't just speak in vague terms. According to insiders, she shared direct accounts, firsthand or relayed by Cassie, of abuse, manipulation, and control. She reportedly painted a chilling picture of patterns that weren't just harmful, but deeply calculated. One outlet called her the piece of the puzzle no one saw coming, and with good reason. Her words connected dots that prosecutors had only hinted at, solidifying a timeline and giving weight to Cassie's own claims. And here's where it gets even more significant. Carrie didn't just describe events, she described intent. The psyche, mindset behind the behavior. The emotional and psychological impact. That kind of testimony doesn't just expose actions, it exposes character. And when she started speaking, Diddy knew it. He felt the walls closing in the moment she took the stand. As her words unraveled years of silence, Diddy's composure began to crack. His courtroom outburst wasn't just frustration, it was panic. A reaction to the realization that someone who had seen it all was finally saying it out loud, and under oath. But what exactly did Carrie say that pushed him over the edge? That's the part that caught everyone off guard. Sources with knowledge of the courtroom proceedings say Carrie revealed a moment that had never been mentioned publicly before. A night, early in Cassie and Diddy's relationship, when things went from controlling to violent. According to Carrie, Cassie called her in tears, locked in a bathroom, whispering over the phone because she was scared he might hear her. Carrie told the court she had begged Cassie to leave that night. She said she offered to drive over, but Cassie told her it was too dangerous, that he'd threatened her if she involved anyone. That moment, as Carrie described it in detail, was the tipping point. Diddy slammed the table. His voice cut through the courtroom like a thunderclap. His legal team rushed to calm him, but it was too late. The damage was done, not just to his image, but to the case. Carrie Morgan didn't just testify, she turned the tide. And now, with Her explosive account out in the open, one thing is clear. The trial will never be the same.
You already mentioned the second witness today, Cassie Venture's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. What did Carrie have to say?
So let me tell you, Carrie Morgan is crucial, and she's deemed crucial because she comes off as credible. Because one of the first statements that she made is that she came here because she was compelled to testify. She no longer speaks to Cassie Ventura. They stopped talking in 2018 after this incident having to deal with where she was assaulted by Sean Combs, where Sean Combs grabbed her by the neck and also threw a wooden hanger at her, but also that it led to Cassie giving her $30,000 so she wouldn't say anything about that specific incident, and that was the end of their relationship. She also corroborated two of the assaults that took place, having to deal with Cassie in terms of her being drugged and as well as her being punched. So she corroborated a lot of the testimony, but she came off as a neutral witness. And the defense wasn't able to break her as they wanted to, but was able to say that, look, it was still a loving relationship.
Carrie Morgan's testimony wasn't just another chapter in the trial. It was the turning point that no one, especially Diddy, was prepared for. From the moment she stepped onto the witness stand, the energy in the courtroom shifted. Heavy silence fell across the room as everyone, attorneys, press, even the judge, seemed to brace for what was coming. Carrie wasn't just a witness. She was the witness. Her presence alone signaled that the trial was entering uncharted and dangerous territory for the defense. Outside, the buzz had already been building. Reporters whispered about what she might reveal, and insiders hinted that her testimony could change everything. Inside, it didn't take long to see why. Her voice was steady, but the weight of her words was staggering. Carrie began by outlining years of disturbing behavior. She says she either witnessed firsthand or learned directly from Cassie. She didn't speak in generalities. She painted a detailed picture of a relationship defined by control, manipulation, and fear. What she described wasn't just a volatile romance. It was, in her words, a dangerous trap. She spoke of bruises she claimed to have seen on Cassie, of calls late at night when Cassie's voice trembled with fear, of times when Diddy's anger turned physical, his rage unchecked and terrifying. But it wasn't just the physical abuse that shook the room, it was the psychological control. Carrie alleged that Diddy systematically isolated Cassie from her support system. She claimed he monitored her phone calls, intercepted her messages, and created an environment where Cassie felt trapped, emotionally, mentally, and physically. According to Carrie, Diddy didn't just want Cassie with him, he wanted control over every part of her life. Then came the moment that brought the entire courtroom to a standstill. Carrie recounted a night that Cassie had allegedly called her, panicked and crying. According to Carrie, Diddy's anger had escalated to the point where Cassie feared for her safety. Carrie claimed she rushed over, inserting herself into a volatile situation, one she said could have turned tragic had she not stepped in. The air in the room seemed to disappear as she detailed that night, her voice unwavering, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. The gallery gasped. Reporters dropped their pens. The judge had to call for order as murmurs erupted across the courtroom. But what truly broke the tension, what shattered whatever composure Diddy had left, was what Carrie said next. She alleged that during one of Diddy's explosive episodes, he said something chilling, something that stuck with her all these years. "No one can stop me." Carrie repeated those words on the stand. That was when Diddy cracked. He muttered something under his breath, then slammed his palm on the defense table so hard it echoed across the chamber. The sound snapped everyone to attention. Witnesses would later describe his expression as a mix of fury and panic. The judge immediately called a halt to proceedings, attempting to restore order as Diddy's legal team leaned in, visibly shaken, trying to calm their client down. It was clear. This wasn't just testimony, it was damning. As the courtroom settled into an uneasy quiet, one question hung in the air like smoke. What would Diddy's team do now? Would they confront Carrie's claims directly? Or would they try to discredit her entirely, painting her as biased, emotional, or worse? Whatever came next, one thing was certain. Carrie Morgan's testimony had blown this trial wide open, and the fallout was just beginning.
And I will say, I think she seemed to say things very matter of fact. There were definitely moments where there was a little bit of what I would call sass, which I didn't think was a bad thing. I think she represented herself very well, and I felt as I read what was being said, she seems like a very credible witness. I think this is going to be one that may stick out in the jury's mind because she was subpoenaed to be here. She is speaking in defense of Cassie, but at the same time, she was also very hurt by Cassie.
Yeah.
And the way that it all came out was very honest. So it's definitely an interesting one to go through.
Yeah, I mean, she's giving a perspective that it feels more like, I don't give a crap about any of these people, so I'm going to give it to you straight. I've moved on from all this, but let's go do it. And not really throwing Cassie under the bus anyway, but
no,
clearly doing it more honestly. So so she made it clear she was only there because of the subpoena, and she confirmed that she and Cassie, who met on a modeling shoot as teenagers, no longer speak because Ventura's boyfriend ate her. Now, was this Agnifilo the Costco lawyer did end up doing this or not?
Yes, Mark Agnifilo, or as we lovingly call him, the Costco lawyer.
Because this build-up of he's finally going to do something during this trial was our first chance to see Costco lawyer step up to the stand, Kim, right? So
we'll get
as
there.
we go through, let's see how he does, yeah?
Yeah. It was fascinating.
Diddy's legal team didn't waste a second after Carrie Morgan's earth-shattering testimony. They came back from recess with a clear mission: discredit the witness, reclaim the courtroom, and contain the damage. As court reconvened, the defense team launched into a meticulous and aggressive cross-examination. Their strategy was unmistakable: chip away at Carrie's credibility and plant just enough doubt to make the jury second-guess everything she had said. They weren't just looking to challenge her words, they wanted to dismantle her entire narrative. The first prong of their attack zeroed in on Carrie's relationship with Cassie. "Would you say you've always taken Cassie's side no matter the situation?" one of Diddy's attorneys asked, his tone clinical, almost surgical. The implication was clear. They were suggesting Carrie's testimony wasn't an impartial account, but a defense of her friend at all costs. That maybe, just maybe, her loyalty blurred the lines between fact and perception. They leaned heavily on that bond, repeatedly. Every question was designed to frame Carrie as someone too emotionally entangled to tell the truth without bias. Then, they shifted gears. The defense began probing the timeline of her claims, pushing her to clarify which incidents she had personally witnessed versus those Cassie may have told her about. "Isn't it true that you weren't physically present for all of these alleged incidents?" another attorney asked, attempting to highlight any gaps in her direct knowledge. They were hoping to expose inconsistencies, or at the very least, suggest her testimony was stitched together from secondhand accounts. But Carrie didn't waver. Her tone remained calm. Her words, measured. That's when Diddy's team went for the most calculated angle of all: her motives. They floated the idea that Carrie had something to gain, that her testimony might be fueled by personal resentment or ulterior motives rather than a desire for justice. "Would you describe your relationship with Mr. Combs as positive before this?" one attorney asked, digging for friction in their past. The line of questioning was subtle but sharp, painting Carrie not just as a biased friend, but potentially as someone with an axe to grind. An active player in a takedown effort rather than a passive witness. Whether it landed with the jury or not, it was a bold attempt to change the narrative. So intense was the back and forth that the judge was forced to intervene multiple times. At one point, when a defense attorney's tone grew too hostile, the judge cut in. "This court will not tolerate disrespect toward any witness." Despite the defense's aggressive posture, reactions in the courtroom were divided. Some insiders believed the legal team scored minor victories, raising legitimate questions, sowing small doubts. But others felt Carrie's calm, consistent demeanor worked in her favor, that every jab only made her appear more composed, more believable. As one observer put it, "The real question is whether the jury sees this as strong lawyering, or as an attempt to bully a credible witness." And that brings us to the next critical development: the evidence Carrie brought with her. Because while words can be challenged, evidence is harder to ignore. If what she turned over to the court backs up even a fraction of what she said on the stand, Diddy's legal team may have a far bigger problem on their hands than a witness who won't back down. The next chapter of this trial hinges on that evidence, and it might just be the piece that shifts the entire case.
two were best friends for 18 years, but now you haven't spoken with her since 2018. That's true. At the danger of being capital obvious, that's a long time. She's moved on. Objection. Why haven't you spoken with her? She did not support me after Sean assaulted me. I try that line at assault. I don't know what that means. Oh, I think it means I set the line at assault. I don't cross the line of assault or whatever. You reached a settlement with Miss Ventura? The money came from Mr. Combs. So this was after I believe she was assaulted by Diddy. That that in order to hush her up, Diddy gave her some money. Or they settled it, however it is. That's a pattern that seems to be happening with him throughout the decades. So Agnifilo shows Carrie Morgan photos, then asks, do you know if Louise Hayes is a self-help author about self-affirmation? Yes. Why did you send him this with words of encouragement? I don't remember sending it. Okay. I want to show you a few more photos. But first, let's talk about the incident where he put his hands on your neck. Were you and Cassie using any drugs at the time? No. What did he say? He said, who is she cheating with? You went to an urgent care and not the hospital, right? Like she's saying just right as the answer. But you told the prosecutors it was bloody and you went to the hospital. I don't remember that. Look at this. And so this is material not shown to the jury. I see that I said that. Now in this, I think it's like now in cross-examination. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. I see that I said that. Do you remember Mr. Agnifilo asking you about an incident in LA? Objection, overruled, and he hit her like in Jamaica, arguing. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So they were doing right here. Agnifilo is Diddy's attorney. That's what I wasn't understanding. So they did the cross. All right. So now this is the prosecutors again asking her questions. They get to come back. So that's who's asking. That was like, why is Agnifilo asking a question about himself?
Carrie Morgan didn't just walk into that courtroom with a story. She came with receipts. Her testimony alone shook the foundation of Diddy's defense. But what no one saw coming was the evidence. Hard, tangible proof that elevated her. Words from powerful to potentially case-defining. What did she bring? Text messages, photos, audio recordings, and they weren't vague. They were damning. According to courtroom insiders, Carrie presented a series of messages exchanged between her and Cassie during the time the abuse allegedly occurred. These weren't reflections written years later. They were real-time cries for help. In one chilling message, Cassie described being afraid to even leave her room. In another, she reportedly told Carrie, "He's not the same. I don't know what to do anymore." Lawyers read portions of these texts aloud, and as the details unfolded, the entire room shifted. One observer described the judge as visibly shaken, pausing longer than usual before moving on. The message was clear. These weren't ordinary accusations. Then came the photos. Carrie submitted images she claims Cassie sent her. Photos of bruises and marks that aligned with the timeline of abuse she described. They were graphic, heartbreaking. Courtroom witnesses said the silence that followed their display was deafening. The images weren't just visual evidence. They told a story of pain, fear, and isolation. Each photo paired with messages where Cassie reportedly expressed terror about what would happen if she ever left. But the moment that truly froze the courtroom? The recordings. Audio files that allegedly captured Diddy in the midst of heated, aggressive confrontations. In one clip, Diddy was reportedly heard shouting threats, his voice filled with rage. The prosecution played the tape slowly, letting the courtroom absorb every word. Some in the gallery covered their mouths, others teared up. Even the jury appeared visibly rattled. While the defense tried to argue the recordings were out of context, the damage had been done. One insider said it best. "This isn't a he said, she said anymore. This is a who you gonna believe, your ears or his lawyers." Carrie Morgan didn't just bolster the case, she changed it. Her testimony and the evidence she provided have dramatically shifted the balance of power. Diddy's team is scrambling, the courtroom is reeling. And the public? Watching every second. But here's the thing. This isn't over. If this was the spark, what comes next could be the explosion. Because this trial is no longer just about Diddy and Cassie. It's about truth, power, and the strength it takes to speak out, even when the world tells you to stay silent. Carrie Morgan took the stand. And now, everything has changed. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe. Because the next chapter, it might be the most shocking yet. Stay tuned.